What's up, music fans of the internet? I'm Derek.
And I am Kevin.
And together we're last week's album. We're bringing you the only reviews with two different views. And this week we're talking about Beulah by John Paul White. And we're asking the big question, does John Paul White's Americana find its destination on Beulah? Cheers, Kevin, and everyone at home.
Cheers, Derek, and everyone at home.
John Paul White was one of the two members of the Civil Wars who had a very public breakup in 2012 following the release of the duo's second album. And Beulah is his first solo album since the Civil Wars. And without further ado, let's talk about what it sounds like. Kevin, what'd you think?
I thought this album sounded like Shovels and Rope, Dawes, and Vince Gill take a trip to a Southern Gothic pop-up revival.
That sounds like a lot of fun. I want to go. I think Beulah sounds like an antebellum Civil Wars, or John Paul White says, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. Let's talk about some highlights. Kevin, what'd you think?
First off, I think that John Paul White does Southern Gothic really, really well. He draws on Southern sounds that have a lot of sort of spirituality to them. We get like some swampy voodoo, some more gospel harmonies, some really haunting vibes. Overall, I just thought all those sounds mixed together really well to create this really nice Southern Gothic vibe.
That was one of my highlights as well, just kind of the different sounds and genres, Southern Americana specifically, as you kind of mentioned. And I thought it kind of ran a range of those soft acoustic numbers, Make You Cry, Hate the Way You Love Me, I'll Get Even, bluesy rock on What's So, Fight For You, and more classic country on I've Been Over This Before. A really enjoyable mix and match of sounds.
Yeah, I think he's very subtle and doesn't do a lot in terms of sort of singing or instrumentation. So the fact that he puts in a lot of different sounds really helps this album carry through. Otherwise, I think it would get a little boring.
Yeah, he really puts together strong melodies, instrumentally and vocally, and that really kind of allows him to seemingly do a lot with a little.
One of the other strong points of the album, I thought, this dude can write some of the darkest, most messed up love ballads that I've ever heard. Track titles include Hope I Die, Hate the Way You Love Me. He has some really weird ways of saying I love you, but somehow it works. Yeah, it's weird but good. Track-wise, I enjoyed What's So, sort of bluesy and soulful and gospel and dark and haunting all at once. One of the best songs on the album. And then Hope I Die, which, despite the depressing title, is actually really good. Sort of this swampy staccato. It sounded to me like Iron and Wine meets Matthew E. White. And then finally, I've Been Over This Before, featuring the Secret Sisters. Sounded to me like Hank Williams meets the Everly Brothers, which is one of the most epic collaborations I could think of. So it's the sort of slow waltzing trot with some simple guitar, piano, and bass, and some really nice female vocal harmonies as well.
Another one that stood out to me was The Once and Future Queen. There's pensively strummed acoustic guitar, subtle organ, airy synths type stuff in the background. Again, very dark lyrics here. He says at one point, and that's okay, I never really loved you anyway, at least not unconditionally. And lastly, I liked Fight For You. This one was a Delta blues-esque number led by acoustic and electric guitar. Really kind of reminded me of Ben Harper. So those were some strong highlights. Now let's talk about lowlights. Kevin, what'd you think?
Sure. I have one small gripe. I thought occasionally, but very rarely, it got a little bit sleepy, particularly on the track I'll Get Even. I thought it got a little slow and could have moved a little faster. What about you?
Some of the darker lyrics were almost a little tough to grapple with for the entirety of the album at times. Now let's talk about the overall rating and asking the big question, does John Paul White's Americana find its destination on Beulah? Kevin, why don't you start us off?
Sure. I'll start with the big question, does it find its destination? I think not all those who wander are lost, Derek. I think he travels across the South, or the Americana, if you will, and he's sort of all over the place in terms of the map, but it works really well. Like I said, he does a lot with the little. The arrangements don't involve much. A lot of simple instruments subtly jamming together, and him singing some really creepy love songs over the top. I also think he's the consummate singer-songwriter, very talented composer and writer, and I really enjoyed Beulah, so I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 5.
I think we're going to agree and disagree for the most part. To answer the big question, does his Americana find its destination? I think definitely from a sound perspective, however, it may have gone a little off map at times lyrically. I think even in those off map forays, it still achieves what you described earlier as weird but good places. That's where it ends up, weird but good places. So that's not necessarily a bad thing. Really strong singer, songwriter here. His ability to create a number of different sounds with seemingly minimalist instrumentation is really strong. Really made this for an engaging listen. And the creepy but good lyrics you can never turn down. And heck, I feel like I can't say creepy but good lyrics enough in this one webcast, but here we are, and here I am. Creepy but good. And so I'm giving this one a creepy but good 4 out of 5 as well. So with Kevin's, that's a combined 8 out of 10. So be sure to check out John Paul White's Beulah, and don't forget to tell us what you thought. Don't forget to subscribe here on the YouTube or on the podcast. And as always, I'm Derek.
And I'm Kevin.
Cheers, everyone.